All right, moving on to our last question. MJ Lee with CNN, please go ahead.
Hey, Admiral, thank you. Given that Hamas has released these new hostage videos, which you referenced before, and the IDF is continuing to attempt hostage rescue operations, I wondered whether the U.S. has received any new intelligence on the 6 American hostages in recent days, and at this point, whether the U.S. believes that they are alive.
Thanks, MJ. I don't know of any additional tactile information that we have received about those 6 Americans that we still believe are being held hostage. We're obviously working and continue to work very hard to get them released, but I'm not aware of any additional information that we have. And I think you can understand that even if I did have additional context to provide, we'd obviously be very careful about what we shared publicly as we're trying to get those folks home to their families. Your question does give me a good punctuation point before I sign off today, and that's that just as I mentioned at the top, with Brett being in the region just last week in Doha, we continue to work this very, very hard. I know it doesn't always rise to the level of the headlines of the day, and we don't talk about it a lot, nor should we. But I don't want to leave anybody with the impression that we aren't working this very, very hard to try to get those folks home with their families, all of them, all the hostages, but with a particular keen focus for us on those half a dozen Americans that we believe are still being held. Thanks.
Sorry, before you go, can I just ask one more follow-up? I know you've gotten a couple of questions about the situation in the Red Sea, but I wondered whether the administration at this point would still sort of characterize the phase that we are in now as the administration wanting to contain the conflict in the region, or rather would you say that the conflict in the region has now officially widened? I mean, given that there have now been additional U.S. strikes, additional Houthi attacks, so this does seem like now a prolonged conflict.
Well, let's. I think it's important to categorize what's happening here. First of all, the strikes that we took Friday, no matter what the Houthis might say, has nothing to do with the fight in Gaza. It has to do with defending shipping in the Red Sea. No matter what the Houthis say, they're not going after ships that are tied to Israel. They hit just the other day. They hit a ship carrying Russian oil. It was Panamanian flag, nothing to do with Israel. So I think we need to not buy into the Houthi propaganda. That's one. We still have an interest in not seeing this conflict widen or escalate. In fact, that's why we took those strikes on Friday to degrade Houthi capability so that it can't widen and escalate. We still have that interest. We're still working to that end, even as we work to continue to make sure Israel has what it needs to defend itself.
All right, I'd like to hand this back over to Karine, but before I do, if you would like to ask a question, please press #2 to be placed in the question queue. If your question is answered before your turn, pressing #2 a second time will take you out of the queue. Karine?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Admiral, thank you for your time.